social science history class. In the last class, we were studying about South India and studied about the Shatavahanas, the Gautamiputra Shatakarani, and their art and architecture also. Today, let us move on to the next dynasty, that is the Kadambas. The Kadamba dynasty, they ruled from 325 CE to 540 CE. This is the Kadambas dynasty. This is the first dynasty to be established in Karnataka, and Banavasi was the capital of the Kadambas. Now it is present in North Kannada district, and the founder of the Kadamba dynasty was Mayura Sharma. When Mayura Sharma was insulted by the Pallava king, so Shivaskanda Varma, he adopted the Kshatriya way of life and he became Mayura Varma. Later on, he defeated the Pallavas in the war and established the Kadamba Empire. He is the pride of all the Kannadigas. This is the emblem of the Kadamba. This is the emblem of the Kadambas. So, according to the Chandravalli inscription at Chitradurga, Maurya Varma is said to have increased the height, the wall of the Chandana Ravati lake. We also see that the Kadambas were an ancient royal family of Karnataka that ruled the northern Karnataka and the Konkan from Banavasi in the present day of Uttara Kannada district. And we also see that an indication of the imperial ambition is provided by the titles of the epithets and assumed by its ruler the marital relations they kept with the other kingdoms and the empire, such as the Vakatakas and the Guptas of northern India. Maurya Sharma defeated the armies of the Pallavas of Kanchi, possibly with the help of some native tribes, and claimed sovereignty. The Kadamba power reached its peak during the rule of Kakustavarma. The Kadambas were contemporary of the Western Ganga dynasty, and together they formed the earliest native kingdoms to rule the land with autonomy. From the middle of 6th century, the dynasty continued to rule as a vassal of large Kannada empires. The Chalukyas and the Rashtrakuta empires fought over 500 years during the time they branched into minor dynasty. The notable among these were the Kadambas of Goa, the Kadambas of Halasi, and the Kadambas of Hangal. During the pre Kadamba era, the ruling families that controlled the Karnataka region, the Mayuras and later the Shatavahanas, were not the natives of the region, and therefore the nucleus of power resided outside the present day of Karnataka. The Kadambas were the first indigenous dynasty to use Kannada, the language of the soil, at the administrative level. In the history of Karnataka, this era serves as a broad-based historical starting point. When we move on to the origin of the Kadamba, the old Kannada inscription of Kadamba king Kamadeva of the Hangal branch and the Hoysala king Veeraballala II in the open mantapa of Tarakeshwara temple at Hangal. There are several legends regarding the origin of the Kadambas. According to one such legend, the originator of this dynasty was a three-eyed, four-armed warrior called as Trilochana Kadamba, who was the father of Mayura Sharma, who emerged from the sweat of the god of Shiva under a Kadamba tree. There is also another legend which tries to simplify it by claiming Mayura Sharma himself was born to Shiva and Bhudevi, that is, the goddesses of earth. Other legends tie them without any substance or to the Nagas and the Nandas of northern India. An inscription of 1189 century claims that the Kadamba Rudra, the founder of the kingdom, was born in the forest of Kadamba trees. As he had a peacock feather like reflection on his limbs, he was called as Mayuravarman. From the Talagunda inscription, one more legend informs that the founding king of the dynasty, Mayura Sharma, was appointed by the six-faced god of war, that is Skanda. The historians are divided on the issues of the geographical origin of the Kadamba's children. They were of the local origin or earlier immigrants from the northern India. The social order of the Kadamba dynasty is also an issue of debate. The founders of this kingdom belonged to the Brahmin caste as described by the Talagunda inscription or of a local tribal origin. Historians Chopra claim that the Kadambas were none other than the Kadamba tribe who were in conflict with the Chera kingdom. The Chera kingdom is now the present Kerala during the Sangama era. The Kadambas find the mention in the Sangama literature as totemic worshippers of the Kadambu tree and the Hindu god Subramanya. According to R.N. Nandi, since the inscription states the family got its name tending to the totem tree that bore the beautiful Kadamba flowers, it is the indication of the tribal origin. The historians Shastri and Kamath claim the family belonged to the Brahmin caste, believed in the Vedas, and performed Vedic sacrifices. And according to the Talagunda and the uh, Gudannapura inscriptions, they belong to the Manvaya Gotra and the Haritiputras, descendant of the Haritri lineage, which connected them to the natives of the Chutus of Banavasis, a vassal of the Shatavahana Empire. According to Rao and Minhan, being the native Kannadigas, the Kadambas promptly gave administrative and political importance to the language Kannada after coming to power. So these are the different, this one where we get the origin of the Kadamba dynasties. The Kadambas made special contributions to Karnataka and the Indian culture. There was also political unity for around 300 years ago under the Kadamba rule. The royal priest, ministers, and military regime also played a very important role in the administration. For administrative to carry out easily, they had the provincial officers who were appointed to look after the province. When we move on to the land revenue system, the land revenue was the main source of the income in the kingdom. The occupations such as the carpentry, goldsmithy, blacksmithy, weaving, oil extraction, pottery were the important occupations of the people of the society. The greater encouragement was given for agriculture and trade, and most of the people they followed the Varnashrama. The most importance was given to the patriarchy and the undivided family. Though they followed the Vedic culture, the Kadampas they encouraged the Jainism and Buddhism, and they gave charity to the Jain temples and scholars at Hangal, Puligere, and other places, and prompted the the spread of the Jain culture. Sorry, children. We can see this. This is the map where we had the Gangas. The Kakatiyas ruled here, the Hoysalas were here, the Eastern Gangas were here. And towards the north we had the Delhi Sultans, the Rajputs were also there. And we can see the Kakatiyas here. We had the Vijayanagar, we had the Ohisala, we had the Telugu, the Eastern Ganga. All these were the trade centers. So we see that the Buddhism was also flourishing in the Kadamba kingdom. It included the Ajanta and the Banavasi were the two important centers of Buddhism. The temples were the centers of festivals and celebration, and the Prakrit and the Sanskrit language both were encouraged. First Prakrit and later the Sanskrit became the court language. Kannada was the language of the people. The ancient Halmidi inscription shows the characteristics of the Kannada language which was in use in the 5th century. This has been the first inscription available in Kannada. The Kadambas laid the foundation for the architecture in Karnataka. They built many temples and basadis in Banvasi. During this period, educational centers like Agraharas, Brahmapuris, and Ghatikas were established. The main Agraharas of that time were found in Telangana and Baligave. The Agraharas were like the residential schools. So, with this, we finish up with the Kadambas. Next, we will move on to the next dynasty, that is the Ganga dynasty. The rise and fall of the dynasty of Ganga rulers constitute an most important chapter in the history of Karnataka. The founder of the Ganga dynasty was Ishwaku, who belonged to the Ishwaku dynasty. They ruled from the Kualala and Talakadu and Manyapura. Manyapura is today's Manne in Nelamangala, Bengaluru rural district, what we are having. The, the Gangawadi kingdom was began in the rule of the Dadiga, which is also known as Konguni Varma, who ruled, and this kingdom was Gangawadi kingdom was ruled by 27 kings. And the most important king was the Durvinita. Durvinita. He was a brave warrior and scholar. He ruled for a long period and also had got the control over the Punnatta in order to strengthen his kingdom. The Nallala copper inscription, it tells us about that he had constructed many lakes for the purpose of irrigation. He loved the literature and works and wrote creative works in Sanskrit and Kannada language. He has translated the Prakrit work, the Vadakatha of Gunadhya into Sanskrit. Now let us move on to the we see here the Western Gangas who all rule, the important kings, the Western Gangas, the Kungivarman Madhava, Harivarman, Vishnugupta, Madhava II, Avi, Avinita, Duruvinita, Mushkara, Polvira, Sirivi, uh, Srivikarma, Bhuvikarma, Shivamarma the first, the Sri Purusha, Shivavarma the second, the Rachamalla the first, the Rachamalla the second, Butuka, then we are also having the Rachamalla the fourth. All these are the important kings who ruled the Ganga dynasty. Now we will move on to the contributions of the Gangas. The king had a council of ministers who helped them in the administration. So these ministers supervise the different branches of administration, and the administration in the villages was very systematic. The village committee looked after the land revenue, justice, sanitation, and defense. The main occupation of the people was agriculture, and also, apart from agriculture, they had other occupations like weaving and blacksmithy and they had very trade. They had a trade relationship with other countries. During the time of the Gangas, let, uh, let us, during the time of the Gangas, let us know how the society was children. The society was divided into different sects and castes, and they were all interdependent on each other. They had a patriarchal type of family, and also an undivided family was common, and social values like honesty, loyalty, bravery, and patience were prominent among the people. The Chaitalyas, now when we move on to the architecture, the Chaitalyas, temples, matas, and agraharas, these were the centers of education. There were Brahmapuris and Ghatikas where they could get the higher education. And also the Talakadu, Shravanabelagola, the Bankapura, and the Perur has been named as the centers of the learning. Now we will move on to the Bahubali Gomateshwara. Gomateshwara of Shravanabelagala is a symbol of life of re- renunciation. The statue of the Gomateshwara was installed by Chavundaraya, the minister of Rachamalla IV. Among the 100 brothers, the Bharata was the eldest son, Bahubali the youngest. After Bharata was coronated as the king, he finds the Chakraratna, that is a wheel. It was a special wheel. Won all the kingdoms and became an emperor. Even before that, all his brothers accepted his sovereignty, but when Bahubali did not accept it, both of them got ready to engage in the battle. Bharata lost in the Drishti Yuddha, Jala Yuddha, and Malla Yuddha. At the end of the Malla Yuddha, Bahubali lifted the Bharata and spinning him in the air like a wheel was about to throw him away. Suddenly he lost all the interest in everything around him and put his brother down. He bowed to his brother and went away to meditate for nirvana. Standing all the time, as he did not achieve salvation, he realizes that as long as he stood in his brother's kingdom and meditated, he would not achieve the nirvana. Later, Bharata came and said that the whole kingdom was Bahubali's and that he was ruling it on Bahubali's behalf. Then Bahubali achieved nirvana. So this is about the Gomateshwara, that is the Bahubali. Since then, the Gangas were Jains and Jainism flourished in this area. The Pujyapada, Vajranadi, Ajita Sena, all other these people popularized the Jainism. They installed 58-foot monolithic idol of Gomateshwara at Shravanabelagola and made it as a famous center. We must have heard about the Mahamastaka Abhisheka of Gomateshwara, which takes place once in 12 years, even to this day. Apart from that, we also see that we see the art and architecture of the Gangas. They have built beautiful temples and basatis. The Kapileshwara temple at Manne, Pataleshwara and Mauraleshwara temples at Talkad, Kolaramma temple at Kolar, Nagareshwara temple at Begur, and the statue of of Gomateshwara at Shravanabelagola. These are the best examples of the architecture. The most important contribution has been the tall pillars called as the Manasthambas and the mm, Brahmamana Stambhas. The Kangas, they were also the lover of literature and they encouraged the Sanskrit, Prakrit and Kannada languages, and many works are also being written. The Madhava II wrote a commentary on the Dattaka Sutra. Durvineta wrote the Sanskrit work, the Shabda Vatra and translated Gunadya's Vadakate into Sanskrit. Sri Purusha wrote the Gajashastra and Shivamadava wrote the Gajastaka, a Kannada work a, a Kannada work. The poet Hemasena, he wrote Raghava Pandaviya and Vadibhasimha wrote Gadya Chintamani and Shatra Chudamani. Whereas we are having the Nemi Chandar, where he also wrote the Dravyasara Samagraha, and Chaundaraya wrote Chaunda Purana and became famous. So, with this, children, we finish up with the history, the South India kingdoms. Thank you, children.